It's today in EVE Online. Well, actually, it's EVE 2020 now. Keep changing the name of the show. July 23rd, I am Metteral, here with a few people. Killaby is here, Tiberius, and Spot, I think, is still here.
Just about.
Spot, you did a show recently about Providence, and you should go back and listen to that show. Can you update us on any progress there?
No, unfortunately. Nothing's changed, really. They're just working on getting out, as far as I know, in the Providence side. Sorry, the Provi Block side.
Sure, it's not
I think
commerce.
that's probably going to be quiet for like the next week or two, just as they finish packing their bags and moving. Where it's going to get interesting is after that week or two of moving's over, and what happens next. That's a whole load of space that is essentially vacant. Are we going to see a mad scramble for it, or is one big group going to come sit on it? I don't know. That's what I'm excited for.
Yeah, it's in here as one of the most violent systems, so stuff's going on.
Yeah, there's all kinds of camps going on. People just hunting for evacuees, I suppose. It's easy killing us. It's probably one way to put it.
Why would they hunt Providence? Providence is trying to leave. Is it just third-party people just picking easy targets?
I would guess so. I'm not too sure. I know that the fighting in both directions has actually gone up on it a little bit, because now they've got this nip. It seems like, they've got this nip, and then people have also got ships that they don't necessarily want to evac, so they're just like, yeah, screw it, let's go fight,
Oh, I see.
Got less to lose and more to get rid of, so they're happy to just fight. So I know that there's a bit more roaming and hunting going on, because just people trying to have a good time before they leave.
Yeah, I think those are called retirement fleets. You want to destroy ships you don't want to move out.
I know there's been a few. I've seen at least one jump freighter, and I'm sure there'll be more. No, sorry, not jump freighter, regular freighter. Freighters and caps that are being insurance frauded and stuff like that. People that just don't want to move their things. So there's going to be all kinds of weird kill mails of just people screwing around.
There's a Keep Star in Providence, isn't there?
There is two that belong to Provi Block, if I'm not wrong. There's one in 9UI, which is sort of their central staging, which is where they're trying to what's the word?
Consolidate?
Consolidate, that's the word. Consolidate everything there. There's also one in the south. I think it belongs to CVA. I can't remember the exact name of the system, but it's a small pocket that's owned by Coalition Hispania. They've got a Keep Star down there. I'm not sure what's happening with those. I know that the 9UI one has essentially been fueled for the next 5 years. Wow. So they're intending to let that one go down in flames. Or maybe the locals will leave it alone. Who knows? But I think it's because it's such an old structure by some standards, you can't. And with this day and age, with the fact that abandoned structures are now a thing, you can't just sell it to the force that's moving in, because then they'll just let it go abandoned. And especially an older structure like that's been heavily used by so many people, they'll just knock it over and collect all the free stuff.
Maybe we should try to buy it.
You want to buy it?
Yeah, let's buy it. Let's take up a collection, buy it, open it, Freeport.
I'll give you a week before it blows up.
That fast? It's not a good investment.
It would be fun. It'd be interesting. Turn it into a free port. I don't know. Maybe you need to find the right people to talk to. I'm not sure who would be the man that holds the keys.
Yeah,
I would guess Equinox would be the guy, but...
Well, Equinox is the original owner, but it would be really Regex is the new quote-unquote king in the area.
Regex?
I'm sorry, did I say Regex?
You did. We were working on that earlier, and now your brain's stuck in it.
Yeah, I'm stuck in programming mode. No, Rocket X, not Regex. He's the new head honcho.
Essentially, yeah.
Especially
you're
in
gonna need
9 UI.
You're going to need to convince Equinox to give it to you, and then also Rocket X not to explode it.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that would have to be like protection, and it gets really messy. I've been in that situation before, and diplomacy saves the day, but also constrains you quite a bit. So it's not great. Anyway, I think I just did something to your name on the. Hopefully, I didn't mute Spod. All right, something happened. That was weird.
I'm still here.
Good.
You invited me to a random Discord.
Okay, that's what happened. I accidentally did that. Anyway, we're also here with Killa B. And
hi,
Killa B, and Tiberius, wormholer. You guys might remember him from what was it? Quarantined in Stations. He was our doctor friend that gave us some updates in real life stuff. But we're here to talk about Eve today. How you doing, Tiberius?
Doing well, thanks.
Yeah. A real quick reminder, a lot of people know Killa B, but Tiberius, what's your career been in EVE Online?
I have been in wormholes since 2013. Before that, I did a bit of stuff in Pravi from 2010 to 13 during the glory days. I started playing in 2005, and I was a high-sec pirate from 2005 to about 2010.
Oh, I didn't know you were in Pravi too.
Yep. I did some stuff with CVA from 2010 to 2011-ish, and then kind of was back and forth between different groups between 12 and 13.
Wild. All right, well, let me jump over to, please participate in the next section, you two, Spod. Let's try to get an update on what's going on in the war with Killa B, who has a ton of information usually. How's it going, Killa? What's going on? Did he shy away? He might have shied away. All right, when he returns, we'll go to Fountain and see what's going on there. Seems like a lot of activity. In the meantime, back to Providence, which we have highlighted on screen here. Do you have any reactions, Tiberius, to the recent events in Providence? Tiberius, did everybody stop listening? Are you there? Spod? I think I've suffered a disconnect. Yeah, I think it's me, guys. It's my connection. So 1 second, I'll be right.
Hello?
There we are.
I cut off.
I think Discord had a little bit there.
Yeah, I was going to Killa B.
Weird.
Yeah, and Discord decided not to allow anyone to talk. So let's pick it up where we left off. We'll come back, Tiberius, to Providence. But Killa B, do you want to talk about what's going on in the war?
So again, strategically, not that much has happened, but apart from, well, I'll go a bit into it later. The only thing that's happening strategically is that now we're moving the Fountain front into Fountain. Most PanFam forces are moving out of Hafeb starting today. And we're going to move into Fountain. Gives us better range onto Fountain itself. And we don't have to take that regional gate every time, right? So that's why we're going to do that. But apart from that, strategically, not much happened in the war. We've had fights going on both ends. We've had a couple of skirmishes and fights in the period basis queries front. Although I can't really update you on those because I wasn't there. That would have to be, Video Progot. And then we've had another nice subcap engagement yesterday with NC and Horde versus Goons and Init. It was a really cool fight. I had a Munin fleet, and then in it had an Ishtar fleet, and goons were in a Munin fleet as well. So I was a little bit outnumbered. It's kind of funny because it was on Ron's stream like 2 or 3 hours before that fight, and I was talking about how, sometimes I take fights that I strategically shouldn't take because they're unlikely that I'm not very likely to get a very clear victory out of an engagement like that, right? And that's usually when you go into full war mode. It's all about hell dunks or blue balls. You either want to crush your opponent or you want to blue ball him. And strategically taking the fights like the one that I took yesterday is not the best move, but I don't feel like we're at the stage right now in Fountain, at least, where we have to have that attitude yet. So that's why I'm taking this chance to, get as many great engagements out of it as I can. And yesterday was definitely one of those. Lots of ships died on both sides. It lost like 80 Ishtars. I lost like 30 Logis, 10 link ships. So both sides, bled pretty hard. And it was a great subcap engagement for both sides. So it was very fun.
Well, that's interesting. So in war, you want to either deny victories or win. You don't want any ambiguity because that allows both teams to say that they won.
I call them win-win situations, right? Because both sides can always so there are certain ways that both sides can spin whatever happened to make it look like they won, right? And you don't want that when you're going into complete destruction mode. But we're not there yet in Fountain, so
right.
That's why
That's where I was turning to. So you're saying that why aren't you there yet in Fountain? Because things are going so well for you that it's obvious that you guys are winning? Is that like...
yeah, so at the moment things are going well either way, and taking a fight like this in between the big important stuff, we didn't fuck around when we took the D4KI hub. We won't be screwing around when we take any other strategically important objectives. We'll go for the victory, we'll go for the throat, right? We won't be going for good fights at that point. But yesterday's objective was over some Tatara. It probably has some stuff building in it, which is why they formed for it in the first place. So yeah, maybe it has some strategic value. But at the end of the day, the Tatara was like, okay, I was just excited to get a fight. And I'm very happy that, Init did see that as well. Lots of the Init line members were like, wow, we didn't expect you guys to jump into us there because they were set up on our in-gate. And I jumped into them anyways because I just wanted to go for the fight. And, you don't really want to jump into Ishtars that are set up with their sentry drones on the gate and the Ishtars 100 off the gate, perfect range and everything.
Yeah.
But I decided to, just say whatever and go in anyways. And that's fine because yesterday's objective didn't really matter on the grand scheme of things. It was just a random Tatara and we'll kill it later. No big deal. So that's when that's like those kind of objectives, you can afford to go for these things. And I think we should, because there will come a time during this war where we have to go into full war mode, where we are going to play the Hell Dunks or Blue Ball game, right? And at that point, I don't think there's going to be that many more fun subcap engagements. And that's why I want to get as many of those in now as I can before we have to go into, war mode, basically, full war mode or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So, So what happened when you take Muninns and jump into a gate that has, what were they, Dommies? No, they were...
Dommies, no, Ishtars, bro.
Ishtars, yeah.
Nobody does Dommies.
No, I know. I just couldn't get the word out. Ishtars, which are the cruisers with drones at perfect range. What happened to you?
You eat shit. I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
Is that what happened?
No, I mean, to be fair, like that first gate I took, I actually outtraded them pretty well. I killed like 4 of my command ships. In the same period of time, I killed 20 Ishtars. That's a trade I take every day of the week, trading 5 command ships for 20 Ishtars. I will do that 100 times over. So the jumping into them worked out quite well for us. And I would have liked to continue fighting on that gate for a while, but then one of our bomber wings bombed them, which made them warp out. So we knew the Goon fleet was coming, but the Goon fleet wasn't that big. It was only about 100 Muninns and some Logis, right? So I figured, okay, look, they have 140 Ishtars and then 100 Muninns, and I have 180 Muninns. So I was outnumbered by about 60 hacks, which, if you look at what I've said in previous shows in the current hack meta, the only thing that matters is who has more hacks. And that statement's still true. But there was a couple of factors here which made me think that I was going to be able to, come out of that engagement on top. One of the factors was that I had a bomber fleet in system. Bombers are very powerful and they can do a lot of damage to both Muninns and Ishtars, especially if they're being run by a well-trained bomber FC, which yesterday they did.
Who is a bomber FC?
It is Bar. And later Siku showed up as well with Pretz and Test. So then later we even had 2 bomber gangs in system, but that wasn't until the end of the engagement. So that was one of the factors. We had a bomber fleet present. And one big disadvantage in my mind on their side as well was that they had their hacks split up in 2 fleets. So they had a total of 60 more hacks than I did, but they had their 200, well, it was like 250 hacks. They had them split up over 2 fleets, right? They had them in 1 Muninn fleet and 1 Ishtar fleet. And usually you get a bit of an advantage if you have 1 big fleet over 2 smaller sized fleets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, to be honest, I didn't really take the Ishtars too seriously. I still don't. I think they're not a very good doctrine. I did make some mistakes during the fight yesterday, which validated them because I made, basically I gave them free reign over the range. They were sitting at like 100 with their Ishtars the entire time while I was sitting in the optimal of their drones, of their sentry drones, right? So they applied their full DPS to us, whereas we had to use long range ammo and it slowed down our kill speed. So, it was one mistake on my part. I probably should have purged a bunch more, like warped out to a ping and then warp back down on top of them, kill a couple, they warp out, and we just rinse and repeat that until their fleet's gone. But yeah, I felt pretty confident taking that fight anyways. And I'm overall looking back at the fight, I analyzed the whole fight after we stood down. I sat down and looked at everything after the fight and looked what I could have done better and what the factors were, what things that didn't work out, sort of like a kind of like an AAR with myself over the fight. And I'm pretty happy with the outcome of the fight. It's still like the battle report, I think, is 43 bill lost on my side and 28 bill lost on their side. So that's a fairly significant distance. But then like 10 billion of those 43 billion on my side were like T3 cruisers that are not part of my Muninn fleet. And it was... So the PL was there. PL was there at the start of the fight in Peats. Peats are nullified long-range Tengus that have basically no tank. And what they're designed to do is sit at like 200 kilometers and shoot with long-range guns and just kill Logis, for example, right? And that PL Pete fleet got chemoed by Proteuses. Now, chemoing is... Cloaky nullified T3 cruisers. In it used Proteuses, we use Lokis, right? It doesn't really matter which ones you use. And basically what you do with them is you warp on top of an enemy fleet that doesn't have a lot of tank, for example, Jackdaws or Peats or frigates, and you can then kill them with the smart bombs because all these T3s have smart bombs fit, right? So the PL Tango fleet got chemoed by the Proteuses. So that was like 4 bill in that Tango's. And then I had a chemo fleet as well in system. My chemo FC decided to do a very questionable run on the Ishtars. Like he tried to chemo the Ishtars for some reason, which I didn't ask for. And that resulted in all those Lokis dying as well. And those Lokis are pretty expensive in their fit. So there was like 6 billion Loki losses right there. So, I look at that BR and I see 10 billion in T3s that died. And if you subtract that, then you're only looking at like 33 versus 28. And with that, I'm pretty happy. Yeah. But yeah, obviously, me being in charge of the fight, I should have organized that better. So it's just a little bit what went on in my head, basically. Yeah. Overall, the fight was really amazing. It was an amazing sub-cap engagement. All the people in my fleet loved it, and I'm pretty sure that all the people in the Goon and the Init fleet loved it as well. So it was a great engagement for everybody. It had 0 strategic value, right? So it doesn't really matter what happened there, but it was fun, and it's worth mentioning, in my opinion.
Did you get thanked for taking the fight from the other side?
Yeah, after the fleet Darkshines pinged. So what they usually do in it is when they, after a fleet and when they lose a bunch of ships, they ping out the SRP link where people can apply for replacements for the ships. And in that ping, he sent out like, also thank you to the hostile FC for taking that fight, and it was fun, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, he did thank me in a way.
Mm-hmm. So you jumped in, took a fight that you weren't sure you were going to win, came out mixed. but you had some fun. I remember you saying it was a great fight in Discord, and the other side also got some excitement out of it. So that works out.
Yeah, so that's exactly the kind of thing that, as the war progresses further along, you don't want your opponents to get any excitement out of anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm saying, like, there's only so much time left on being able to take these fights. And while I am being criticized for taking fights like that within the coalition, I just, I don't really care. And I just keep taking them because it's fun for everybody. And if most of the time I smash my opponents anyway, so it doesn't really matter. If we win the fight, then nobody's gonna nobody ever complains if I take a risky fight and I win. But as soon as you start losing more than your opponent, everybody's like, "Oh, killer."
He's not as good as it used to be.
Well, it's luckily I'm in a position where I can just tell people to shut up and keep going.
Yeah, I think you can tank some criticism more so than newer FCs. All right, thanks, man. That's good to get us up to date because there's not a lot going on in the Fountain War or the Fountain region. That's happened since pretty much the fallback, we'll call it. The initiative fell back to 3 systems. We covered that last time we talked. What's happened since then for NC? Have you guys made any decisions, or have the invading powers made any decisions on what they're going to do?
I told you earlier we're moving, right? We're moving into Fountain today. So
but
we're pushing into Fountain. The new staging gives us great range over most of Fountain.
You didn't say where the new staging was,
their stuff in.
Is that a secret, the new staging?
It won't be in 45 minutes.
When it happens? Okay.
And I pinged it to NC publicly where we're going, so maybe just ask around. I'm sure somebody will be able to tell you.
Maybe somebody in Goonswarm could tell me where it is.
Probably.
All right.
Oh, it's a very good staging system.
Well, we'll see. We'll keep up with what's going on in Fountain. And we'll check in on the southern theater of the war at a later time. Right now, I want to go back to Tiberius. We talked a little bit about your experience. And you guys can feel free to talk about this as well. What are your thoughts on the Providence thing? I didn't know you had been in Providence before.
I don't want to get super personal about it, but I think that what has been said with Providence before probably sums it up the best. And I'll defer to people who have been there, that are there now and dealing with stuff like boots on the ground and stuff. It's kind of a shame to see, such a titan of the past kind of, move forward. But it really does kind of boil down to the internal issues that was happening with leadership. So it's just not working out for them anymore. It's unfortunate, but I think it'll be interesting to see how it plans out on whether or not there's a group that steps in to try to keep it into the same general principle as the way that it's been for the past decade or so, or whether or not somebody tries to take it as a strategic value or a strategic something to push forward with, so as I guess a buffer zone for a flood zone for test. It has the potential to be a buffer zone for test. It has the potential to be.
I think Brave is the buffer zone for test.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, Brave.
So it has the potential to be a buffer zone for somebody, or it has the potential to be a nuclear staging platform, kind of like the Cuban Missile Crisis was for the United States and Russia. So it'll be interesting to see what does happen with Provi.
Yeah, it has 4 entrances from Empire space, so it's not a place you put down a secure empire or anything.
Yeah.
But it is an entry point for a lot of people into the south, into Nullsec. So maybe it's just really geographically perfect to be what it was before, which is an exploration, curiosity, area for people who want to dip their toe into the water that is nullsec.
And it does have the potential to have small groups of people move into there and, you know, claim small groups of SOV. Like I believe the QBL pocket is owned by like a single group of dudes, and I was talking to a group of my friends who were telling me that they have quite a few supers and their own little umbrella system there. R3K is also a place where it's, you know, continually going to be contested, I'm sure. R3K all the way to G7AQ has the potential to be contested and be a hotbed for sure.
I think it has 5 entrances. Wow. I don't know. Spot, are you still here?
I am.
Have they said what's going to happen with Providence? Is that out yet? Or
I've only heard rumors and half truths and rough ideas.
Yeah.
There's no official statement. I think there's not going to be one for a while. Though I would expect it's likely going to be because, and this is opinion, of course, RC as a whole doesn't seem to be that interested in holding SOV in the region. TRC very much does, but RC as a whole doesn't, and TRC's not necessarily got the time to manage the whole thing. So I would expect some kind of free-for-all of small groups trying to find their place in the region.
Could get
That's
interesting.
What I'm banking on.
Like a crash derby of sorts, where a lot of small groups are fighting over land.
Pretty much, yeah.
This
I
happens.
may not be queuing up a bunch of ships in Bital.
This happens every time that there's a power vacuum of any kind. There's going to be a small group of people who come in to try to contest resources. So it'll be interesting to see what actually does happening in terms of the political landscape. And I think it's even more interesting considering that this is coming on the cusp of resource distribution getting a shakeup.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be interested to see if this ends up being like how farming in this region ends up going in terms of at least bounties for now, and then whenever they decide to change things up for mining, if they do.
Well, that'll come later, maybe quadrant 4, maybe. But in quadrant 3, in quadrant 3, we have ESS changes, where they're basically ratting reward changes. So if you're out there shooting pirates, NPCs, basically, you get a certain distribution of money, and the way it's working should spread people out amongst many systems. So in order to get the same amount of income in nullsec that you were making before, and this is just pure ratting now, it's going to mean that you have to spread out more. So territory might become more valuable than it is now. Because right now you can concentrate into a few areas and make a ton of money and not need to move in an expansion sort of fashion in any direction. But that's going to change. And later, maybe in quarter 4, the end of the year, we might see that same dynamic effect happen with mining. Then you will have a lot of pressure to take over more territory if you want to maintain the same income. Those details are still being worked out.
Could that mean then maybe the neighbors end up expanding into Providence just for the extra farmland?
Yeah, so there's the potential for that. But because it's because of the connection to that's the word I'm looking for here. Because of the connection to Empire space, I think that there's always going to be pirates that are going to continue to contest SOV and iHubs and things of that nature, especially uncontested things that are not part of major pockets like QBL and 2V.
Right. All right. Is there anything else you guys wanted to discuss? We could go on for a long time about wormholes with Tiberius.
Well, there's not a whole lot going on with wormholes right now. It's just there haven't been. Well, there was actually a pretty major eviction earlier this past weekend of a group called Einstein Rosen Brigade. ERB was actually part of the Pravi block a little while ago. They were evicted by Singularity Syndicate for it's the word I'm looking for here, vindictive reasons, I believe.
I heard about that one a little, actually.
They get evicted? Oh, yeah.
They did. So they got Einstein Rosen Brigade has been in their particular system that they were in for, I want to say the last I heard it was like 4 to 5 years. And unfortunately, XIX paid the visit to the attackers. I can't remember if it was XIX or another. It was a Russian nullsec group, and they at the very last day they had a frigate hull connection to the main staging system of the nullsec group. And they showed up with 250 Kikimoras and took a lot of their loot and destroyed a lot of their kill mails after they destroyed their main staging Fortizar. The approximate value of the loot that was taken, the attackers took about 250 bill in total loot value. The Russians took about 100 to 150 bill in loot value. And it's estimated that an additional 5 to 600 bill was either lost in the fort pop or safed up in log off freighters. So approximately $1 trillion ISK in value was redistributed to the greater good of different groups. It was either lost or redistributed.
Well, Inner Hell took off. You still have Hard Knocks out there. You still have a group you're familiar with. You still have Laserhawks. So that's 2 out of 3 of the big wave of the evictors of Wormhole Space. What were they called? They have a name as a group?
They were colloquially known as, as the many of the other people as the Unholy Alliance. Or the Wormhole CFC is what they called themselves, I believe. The CFC stands for Clusterfuck Coalition, for those who weren't around for the old CFC of the olden days.
The old Imperium.
Old Imperium. So they, so unfortunately with them gone, the Hard Knocks has actually moved out to Fountain, and they're harassing Initiative. And I'm not sure what Laserhawks has been up to as of late. I believe their kill boards just show them doing proving grounds for the most part right now.
Yeah. I want to correct something I said a few shows ago, and that was that some Inner Hell guys have joined PL and are wreaking havoc on Fountain from the inside out. And I like the idea of an army marching to the front gates, but also having, like, these guys come up through the sewers inside the city and tearing it up from the inside. But I maybe gave Inner Hell too much credit. There's only a few guys from Inner Hell that joined PL, so it's not significant. It's not a significant amount. But I did also hear that Hard Knocks was helping out in Fountain, going in there and destroying some things.
Yeah, so from what I understand, and I could be wrong entirely on what they've got going on for themselves, is I believe that they did work out a contract with some other people in the tests aggressive coalition, and they are in particular, I believe they're harassing Initiative groups because TD Sin is associated with Initiative, and also
Oh, that's
because
right.
they have a pretty hard vendetta against Initiative for their 2 evictions that they have performed against them.
Forgot
So they
about
are returning the favor.
Yeah. Oh, listen, I have to cut off here in 30 minutes, but we have a lot of good people in here. Silva, John, Killer B still here, Dr. Spot. So I'm going to roll out, be listening. But we can continue if you guys want to talk. If not, we can wrap it up right now.
I have to drop off. I've got a fleet to go to.
Yeah, I also as well have to drop off here.
All right. Well, let's actually wrap up the show. We'll be back tomorrow then with more information. Try to get here at 1600. That's when we'll try to start on time. Thanks, Killer B. Thanks, Spod. Tiberius, good to see you again. And thank you all for joining us. What's that?
That wormhole eviction, that was Oz's wormhole. He lived there.
Yes, it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had a bad time trying to get out. He ended up taking a bunch of DSTs and using noise filaments to just leg it out.
Yeah,
I think he's got one of them still stuck in Delve somewhere.
I like
He's trying
Oz.
to get
Now
out.
I'm mad at you guys. All right, no longer cheering for you. All right, just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, thanks very much. We will see you tomorrow. Please enjoy. Oh, Killer B. What is? Oh, he's playing something else. We'll find somebody to raid. Stick around. Thanks. We'll see you next time.